Hi, and welcome to the Mortgage Broker Broadcast. This week's podcast is the second episode of the anniversary podcast. Last week's podcast with Ash Boland was all about reflecting on the 12 months of podcasting, why we set it up, why I became a host on a podcast, what I've learned over the past 12 months, and get into a bit of a conversation with Ash all about podcasting. We agreed that the second part of the podcast, the second episode, will be all about the guests and paying them homage to the guests of the past 12 months. We've had some amazing guests on the podcast, and we're just going to clip down some of the interviews, some of the comments, heart and sleeve moments, and some real inspirational conversations that I've had over the past 12 months. So yeah, let's just get into the podcast. Branding and stuff like that over I listen to the podcast every single week, and this week equity release leads, we do equity release to firm. Equity release leads is something we generate and we want to be doing, and so like things that you're talking about makes total sense. It's sort of, and it does generally, contrary to people's comments, it is generally quite good every single week.
Generally quite good.
That's about as good. Can I put that on a review? 5-star Google.
Yeah, it's generally quite good.
Generally quite good. Yeah. There's some ones I'd kind of miss, but generally it's quite good. Yeah. I think as far as I can say. Yeah, I think that's quite a compliment from my point of view. That Alex, I think it's sort of like, I think that's quite a good.
I appreciate that.
Because that sort of thing. It's still a 5-star. I'm not going to go out there and go, it's generally quite good and give you a 4-star and then get down the rankings like we get from time to time. The advice was amazing, blah, blah, they did everything, 4 stars. Like, what? Yeah. Why would you do that?
Didn't get me £1 million mortgage, so wouldn't get a 5.
Yeah, exactly. And 10,000 a year.
With the podcast and not selling is completely intentional. And I don't think I've ever sold or tried to sell anything. I think the only thing we've sold on the podcast is like event tickets when we've done conferences. But and one of the things why it's called Advisors Assemble and why I've got this obsession with Batman and superheroes,
which we are going to come on to. We do need to get that involved in the
I'm shoehorning it in.
Yeah, exactly. We're not going to sell the bit. We're not going to sell the podcast, but we're going to shoehorn in Batman and my obsession with superheroes. Yeah.
So whenever you watch Marvel, you think of me and then call me up. Yeah, that's exactly subliminal. Is because superheroes don't ever ask for anything in return. And then there's Batman Begins. I watched that for the millionth time at the right time, because there was so many things in there that made so much sense for me. And that one, it's right at the end. And Commissioner Gordon says to Batman, he says, I never said thank you. And he says, you'll never have to. And he's like, he doesn't do it for any other reason than to help people. And if you can do that, the minute you start putting content out there and thinking, oh, I'm going to say this because it'll get me more, or I'll get more sales, or you start thinking about you, it like just doesn't work. I think there's the stuff going on in your brain that you can't control. If you do things for the wrong intentions, it will come across in the wrong way. I think you have to, and we have to do the podcast, and like you doing yours and people creating their content. If they do it from a place where, if I can help someone, whether I never speak to them, if someone's listened to our podcast and then has grown their firm like ridiculously, that doesn't have to work again, sold it for X million from stuff they've learned from us, and I've never spoke to them, then that's amazing. I'm quite happy with that. If I start thinking, oh, I'm doing this podcast because I want to get as many leads as possible, it will start getting a bit salesy, and we'll start saying stuff to try and get people to call, and people will just start cringing, I think. I think you've got to, with that content, whether you do podcasts, YouTube, or whatever, I just think, like, don't put like a jazzy intro on the front with your logo because you want to. That's about you. It's not about, like, go straight into the content because that's what the person's looking for. I think you've always got to think about your prospects and what they want, and what you want is irrelevant, but you have to have faith that does work. So it's kind of doesn't make any sense. It sounds really naive, but if you do that, then that's what makes people pick up the phone, I believe.
From starting, as soon as I started, it was, you know, when you have one of those light bulb moments, and I was getting trained, I was in my kitchen and my mentor was giving me some, like, you know, going through like critical illness and children's critical illness. And I was like, so you're telling me that if my children were ill, like when they were born, I'd have been paid money, or I'd have been all right, not worrying? And he was like, yeah. I said, well, what? I don't understand. I've got 3 kids. Why wasn't I told this before? And he was like, don't know. And he just said, don't know, and just carried on. And it was like, no, why? Like, why wasn't I told? Like, I just found it absolutely mind baffling that I could have 3 children and at no point be told that, oh, do you know, if during pregnancy, if the baby has Down syndrome or the baby has cystic fibrosis, any of these life-changing conditions, you can actually protect the baby, which I would have done. I would have done because I've always found it a priority, but nobody had ever told me. So therefore I didn't know it was available. And it really bothered me. And I thought, how many people in this country are doing the same thing I'm doing right now and thinking, how on earth did I not know that? And that's where I knew like it just hit me like a ton of bricks. I was like, I need to do something about this because it's not right. I don't believe it's right, regardless of, in terms of, I know in our industry it's, you know, how many clients and your service levels and things, but just in terms of, for me and my conscience, I want to know that I've made a difference to help educate parents to protect what matters most, which is the children.
Exactly. Do you think that's down to the advisors, protection advisors, mortgage advisors? Do you think that's down to them and the sort of their lack of understanding, or their lack of knowledge, or their sort of lack of priority?
I don't think it's knowledge, Craig. I think it's the passion, if I'm honest. I think it's the passion towards the product. Like I was saying to you earlier, I'm going on this, I'm doing a talk at Cover event, and the subject is about how we approach protection differently. And I don't think anyone's doing it deliberately. I think you just, when you come in the industry, you get taught a certain way, and unless you see a different way to do it, you just do what you've always been told to do and just carry on like that. I think the industry needs a big shake up. I don't believe that we as advisors have anywhere near enough respect for the product and what it does. And we don't shout. We're not as proud of it as we should be. And it's about having more confidence in the fact that this isn't a product that we're selling. This is something that can literally change your life and make the difference between you being financially stable and being in financial hell when your child's critically ill. And I talk a lot about children because I don't think it gets spoke about enough. And that's where the videos had started from. And I was just like, how do I get this across without sounding like a boffin? Because a lot of the time in this industry, it's stats
full of jargon. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like, you know, saying things in a way that you don't understand. Like, you know, just speak normal. Just tell me as it is. Tell me what it is, and I'll understand it. It's sometimes we try to use knowledge as power and be, you know, well, these critical conditions on the definition list. Well, what does that mean? What it means is if your child has cancer, you're going to get paid. That's it. And it's about breaking that down and just being an actual human rather than an advisor.
Yeah, I think you said it right when you said just then about you don't sell protection. I've got, like, I run a firm and I've got various advisors in the firm, and I always talk to them about, you don't sell protection. It doesn't sell protection. You're just understanding like the shortfalls, the priorities, the needs, the budgets and things like that. And that's all you're there to do, is talk about and understand, like, for clients to understand, like you say. I think just jargon's power. People think so when they come up with jargon and loads of stats and things like that, it just makes them feel a bit more important than actually. It's just say it how it is. Just give me in basics of exactly what will happen. If this happens, you will receive a payout. And that's what people really want to know. They don't want to feel, they want to feel as though their advisor's not talking down to them, not sort of looking down the nose arm and things like that. It's not about that. It's about empathy.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So for me, right, these 3 pillars are pretty much the way I run my, whether it be coaching with my staff, whether it be developing businesses with our third-party customers and our brokers alike, whether it be just creating a new piece of content or marketing for anything really. I always fall down to these 3 pillars, and these, for me, these 3 things that if you could literally build anything around these, as long as you follow, in my mind, this mindset. And just to give you a bit of a backstory, right? For every single product that we buy, even if it's free, anything that we get in this world, right, it is solving an issue. Oh, I'm going to eat an apple because I'm hungry. Issue, I'm hungry. Offer, get the apple. So I'm giving away there what the pillars are, but the 3 pillars are issue, offer, differentiator. So let me give an example of some of the issues, and we'll go into some of the meat and drink around what's important around it. So as I've mentioned, everything that a consumer, everything that is available anywhere is to combat an issue for me. Whether it be, it could be just something dead simple, a packet of envelopes. You're not buying them unless you want to post something, right? So, the issue is I need envelopes to post letters, cards, I'm going to buy them. So what's the offer? A packet of envelopes. Great. But are you going to sell more envelopes? Making it a bit different. And it's a boring example, but you can't, a differentiator there is just doing like a 2-for-1 on envelopes or whatever it is, or getting free stamps. But the point is there's an offer for near enough every issue. Where brands and people alike can take it to that next level is essentially presenting your differentiator to that solution. Mm-hmm. So if I was to bring it to life in terms of, right, if I'm a brand owner, and in this example, I'm a brand owner and I am, let's say, a mortgage broker. Well, the issue is clear and obvious, right? Is that people want a mortgage. And you can define that 1,000 different ways. Want as in a first-time buyer, as in an existing borrower who wants to raise money to build an extension, is a buy-to-let landlord that wants a capital raise to grow further. There's the issue, right? There's a plethora of different ones you could think about. And then you think about the offer. Now, the offer doesn't have to be a lender. In fact, it's not the lender. The offer here is not what anyone else offers other than you as the brand. So the first pillar is I've identified an issue. The second pillar is, how do I, as a provider of that service solution to that issue, promote that offer? So that offer being, okay, I'm a first-time buyer. I need a mortgage. Great. Well, I am Mr. Broker that specializes in first-time buyers. Great. There's 1,000 other one of them. There's loads of brokers do the same thing, right? So third pillar, how are you different? What's your differentiator to these people? What is it that you offer that could really attract the attention of these would-be buyers and borrowers to make them buy into your brand, and in return, essentially become a lead generation tool? But I'll talk about that later. But they're the 3 pillars. So now the interesting part of that for me is if you talk that through, that can work with every single element of every single business in the world. So, it can work on marketing. So you can find out what the issue is, present what you offer, market why you're different. It could be staff development. Okay, what's the development needs? What do you offer? How can you be different to retain that individual services rather than lose them in the future to attrition for different employment types? If they move on, or you're trying to develop your people. It can be customer experience journeys. What issue have you found? What can you offer? How can you be different to your brand and your competitors? It can be taken across everything. And it's not something that I'm not claiming to be an expert here and come up with this myself. I've kind of like re-engineered something that I read about many years back in a book called Sales Simplified by Mike Weinberg. If you've not read it, it's brilliant. And it literally does what it says on the tin, simplifies the sales experience. This is an American chap that flew all over the US, selling all sorts of different things, printers, software, whatever it may be. But he always found out what the issue was and what was different. And I thought, well, actually, mix a little bit in there. What's your offer? How are you going to continually be different? So I just thought maybe just design this model around that and come up with something that actually could work on most occasions. And that is the 3 pillars, really.
Absolutely. I think that's the problem, is that people too, and I'm guilty of this. When people want to be too polished and it looks too professional, and customers are not necessarily looking for that. And there will be the ums and the ahs and the slip ups and that I get quite a lot losing my chain of thought, and that's why I make a lot of notes. And there's loads of post-it notes all over my desk when I'm podcasting, because
that's brilliant.
Where was I going again with that? What does it? And I do sort of lose my chain of thought. But like but it is about sort of, that's the real person. That's who you are. We are all human beings. And I think that sometimes we can worry too much about what people are going to say and people are going to think, and people are going to look at it and think, oh my God, like what is that person going on about? We sort of worry too much about it. But I think
do.
once you've broken your duck and broken that sort of doing it once, it's then you then can't stop people then, can you? It's like, can I become a guest again? Can I do this again? Can I do it? Because like the people do enjoy doing this sort of thing.
Oh, definitely. I mean, I know on all of my onboarding calls with the team and clients, and Alex and I have this conversation all the time. I try and make it really fun, especially when I'm first saying, "Oh, hopefully you'll be doing, the episodes with us. You'll be speaking. We'll be interviewing you." And some of them kind of look and think, "Oh no, I don't think I can do that." And I say to them, "No, you definitely can." And even on the very first episode that we record, I'll chat to them, before we start recording, try and ease them into it, and then by the time we get halfway through, they are pros. They are so good. And these brokers, they know their stuff. They know what they're talking about. There's just something about hitting a record button, I think, that frightens people, when really it is just a conversation like you and I are having. And once they get going, they are brilliant, and they want to book more and more in. Obviously, you do get certain clients that take longer to get into doing the episodes, and you've got to really encourage them each time. And I think it goes back to not liking the sound of your own voice, or, I've missed this out, I should have put that in. And I always say to them, look, we can edit certain things out. We're not live, it's pre-recorded. You can just, take a seat, get a cup of tea and have a chat. It's that easy, really.
I think that's it, because you're right what you said about mortgage brokers are so knowledgeable. They've got so much information to share, and they know sort of but then put them. Really, it's the same as doing a role play or being observed, like from a mortgage broker, but like regulated world that we live in. You put somebody in front of somebody that's interviewing them, but then ticking a box, and they go to, it's like, well, just chill. Like when I'm observing people, when Jason, our compliance and risk manager from the firm's point of view, he says, just chill out. You do this day in day out. I've had that this week where one of the advisors just getting stressed out about being observed. You're like, whoa, just chill out, and you do this day in day out. Week in, week out, you will do this. So just think of it like that and try and forget. But some people get hung up by being observed or being recorded or something like that.
And I do understand it as well. It is different. And I also think what I've noticed is, the younger generation, those are at, in schools of today, they've grown up with this. They've grown up with YouTube, TikTok, all of that. Obviously, there are other platforms. So they're very used to being on their phones, even just recording videos and uploading it. Yeah. Whereas I think maybe brokers, in their roles that have been established for a long time, they've not really ever used that as a tool. So it's brand new to them, and it doesn't come natural. And that's what I absolutely love about this role, that, we're introducing new people to the audio world.
This is like, I've now got that freedom. It's like what you do with it is the important bit of the freedom. But then I knew that I wanted to have the CS Retirement Solutions. I knew that I wanted to grow the mortgage business. I knew I wanted to grow the CS Mortgage Solutions. When I look back at my business plan, and I've still got those business plans, I've still got those forecasts and all those, because it's good grounding. I get look back at the bank statements and look at the turnover and look at those sorts of things and look at the overdraft and all those sorts of things, because you think it keeps you grounded. I think you have to look back at those and thinking, actually, and that it wasn't, yes, financially, there's obviously the benefit of financially, but it's not, I didn't do it for the financial side of things. I did it just for my life, for my own. I wanted to look back. There's a book that I won't quote, but it's about having regrets, and it's a real eye opener from and I'm stumbling because I can't remember what it's actually called. But basically, there is a nurse. She's in a nursing home, and this is end of life care, and she's interviewing these people who are literally got days, weeks, month if they're lucky to live, and she's interviewing these people. And the one common thing that goes through those people is about having no regrets and actually feeling as though I've done something with my life. And that was the thing. It's like, well, be brave, be scared, go for it. If you were thinking about it, just go for it. Like, what is the worst that can happen? You've like look back on your life and think, do you know what? And that's the thing for me. Like now, with the business and what's happened, I don't, I'm like, actually, I don't have any ego. I don't sit there thinking, oh my God, like what I've achieved is amazing, because I don't, because there's always more to look forward to. There's always more moving forward and more to achieve and more to achieve. But I think the biggest thing that I've learned is to enjoy the ride as well at the same time. I think that was that you can get too hung up on the goals sometimes and not enjoy doing what you're doing. And again, we've got on a total tangent with the question.
No, it's good. No, it's not. That's what make that. It's not about a tangent. It's about the whole idea of what we're doing. I was trying to connect my my phone up, because there's a video you just said, and it's got me thinking. This whole idea, I've just taken over this episode, and that's the whole idea of it. But there was a video I saw of Jimmy Carr. Have you seen this video of Jimmy Carr being interviewed?
No, it is on my list to watch. I haven't seen it, to be honest with you. I do know which one they're talking about, but no, go on.
Let me see if I can connect it, because I think your listeners might like it, and it'll be like I can do it on my phone. I'm very fancy. See, Craig doesn't have all this fancy equipment the same way I do, but no, I think
all the gear,
but no idea.
If you do want to find somebody, a podcast host with all the gear, please see the mortgage marketing.
No, that's
strike two.
Definitely not the case. If it works, it might not even work. But there's a I'm trying to get my Rodecaster to connect via Bluetooth, but it's not doing it. There's a really interesting thing you're saying there, and it's a thing that Jimmy Carr was saying, and he actually said, why did he go why did he, set up and do what he was going to, become a comedian? And he said, I didn't do it to be rich and famous. I did it because I had to. I wanted to be, here you go, I'll play it to you, and this might relate to you, and this is your listeners. And this, by the way, if you're relating to this, then it would lead into the idea of you should join My Brand, My Way. Because if this is how you feel.
Got a sound effect for that, Ash, as well.
Boom, boom. See if this works.
I'm doing a gig above.
Can you hear that? Yeah.
Yep.
Cash in hand.
Yeah.
That was
all right. So this is what he said. He got interviewed, and this reminds me of, you just said this, and I've only just heard this today, and you were just saying that, and I was like, oh my God, because I was running around telling my wife this, and I love this. So your listeners can hear this as well.
I didn't leave my job to be rich and famous on TV. I left my job for yo ho ho, a pirate's life for me. We're doing comedy. I'm doing a gig above a pub. Someone gave me £20 cash in hand. It was crazy. I'd had like a good job, but it's that thing where you go, the good is the enemy of the best. How much to not live your life? How much to not follow your dreams? How much do I have to give you across the table? Now, I'm saying this to you now, right? And you're a wealthy man, you're an investor or whatever. So it's going to be a high figure. But for most people in their mid-20s, they've just left college, or early 20s, they've left college. And you go, they give you 35 grand to compromise on everything and always be tired and just work to my time. And people go, okay. That's the thing of like working for someone else is, I think, that's the big shift, right? So my stand-up is a metaphor in the book. I'm not trying to get people to become stand-ups. Frankly, I don't need the fucking competition. But the idea of going and doing your thing, even if it's less successful, but doing your thing, being your boss, being your CEO, great. Like, I'm all about that. When people tell me they've started a little business or done a little thing, you just go, yeah, fucking boss.
How about that?
Wow.
And that's what you were just saying then. And I was thinking, that's you.
Oh my God. I can't believe I've not listened to that. And I can't believe, but it's great. And we've not planned that or staged that whatsoever. Like, I have got the genuine look on my face. I know you can't, like, the listeners can't hear me, but the genuine look on my face of, oh my God, that is absolutely spot on. You're right. It wasn't for the income. It wasn't for the, yes, it's okay it's good to have an income to live by, but it's not what it's about. It's about actually being brave and looking back and thinking, do you know what? I gave it a go. Do you know what? I gave it a shot. And it's just like when he's sort of saying about how much to not follow your dreams, how much to be told, like, how much are you prepared? Like, it's like, wow, how powerful are those words coming from somebody like Jimmy Carr?
But it's not just that. It's like you. This is why I'm saying it is because it's you. That's the stuff you're telling me there. And this is the thing that's really interesting and I think your listeners, especially it's brokers, you talk about, I'm ex-Connells, you're ex-Connells, you're ex-Country. That thing of how much money does it take to stop you from doing it? And if you're a broker and you're relating to that, because that's how I felt. And I know that's probably, that's a youth, and that's why I was interested to ask you what it felt like, because I remember thinking there's got to be another way.